The bass music scene has continued to expand its reach in recent years with the help of many talented producers, one of which being Svdden Death. He's been making music under the moniker for nearly 10 years, and he was releasing music under different aliases before that. In this video, we'll be taking a trip back in time to uncover the full origin story of Svdden Death and VOYD. Danny Howland was born in San Jose, California in 1993 and lived there until he graduated high school. His parents were originally from Ohio, but they moved to San Jose in the 80s for his dad's job as a software engineer. His dad was a big fan of classic rock and some early metal, which had an influence on Danny. His exposure to electronic music came pretty early in his life, as he said, quote, "I grew up listening to Kraftwerk and stuff like that. Back then, it was considered super experimental." He took piano lessons from a young age and later taught himself to play the guitar.
Yeah, I think both my parents, whether they really realize it or not, were definitely encouraging me to do a lot of creative shit. And when they found out I was doing music, shouldn't have been so much of a surprise.
Growing up, he was in some metal bands with his friends, and eventually he joined the marching band at his school, and the teacher convinced him to play the bass since he already kinda knew how to play the guitar.
I hated it. That shit sucked.
Once he was in high school, he joined the jazz band, but he also hated that.
My last 2 years of high school, I signed up to play bass again in the jazz band. My jazz instructor was like, "Hey, why don't you come play for my band and we'll pay you money." Right? And then I did that for maybe 6 months or something. And he's kind of a dick. So I kind of flipped out on him and I quit that band. And then I quit the one from school.
He said that he didn't really have any friends when he first started high school, and he experienced some bullying.
Kind of a bitch, so I was bullied a lot.
But eventually things got better.
I had my moments where it was I got in my bullies' faces, and shit, and it worked itself out.
Once he had made some friends at school, one of those friends introduced him to dubstep. In an interview, he said, "My first experience with dubstep in particular, I listened to some old bango with my friends. My friend was really into UK/BBC radio stuff and showed it all to me. When I first got into it, there was this app I had in 2008 when Androids were super new and stuff. I had this shitty app that helped me download music, and I was looking up a bunch of Scream and Rusko, etc. Alright, now let's fast forward to 2011 when he graduated high school. This was the year that he began producing, and he also moved to San Francisco to attend college.
I went to San Francisco State, and it was fucking expensive, and I didn't learn shit.
He was studying business, but he felt like he was wasting money, so he transferred to a community college to study computer programming. By 2012, he had begun releasing music under a different name than Svdden Death, and he used a few different names over the years, though I couldn't find what those were, so if anyone knows what the previous names he used were, let me know in the comments.
I had a couple, and they're all terrible.
There's a SoundCloud account called Sudden Old Random Stuff that features a lot of his pre-Svdden Death music, and it's pretty wild how stylistically different it is from Svdden Death. One day he decided to burn his music onto some CDs to hand out at a club in San Francisco called EPR that hosted a weekly dance music event. Nobody really cared except for one person, and that person was Somnium Sound. He and Danny quickly became friends, and they eventually moved to Los Angeles together, but we'll get to that in a bit. Danny's main goal at the time was to become well known in the Bay Area, and he tried to be a promoter, but it was short-lived. Eventually, Danny dropped out of college and moved back in with his parents in San Jose. He would invite friends over and they would make music in his parents' garage, and he also worked a few different jobs as a barista and a server during that time. His dad was supportive of him pursuing music, but his mom wasn't quite as supportive.
My mom was definitely like, you need to get a real job and figure out your life.
Around 2014, he sort of rediscovered dubstep when he came across artists like Fizo, Samplifier, Uber, Getter, etc. In an interview, he said, "I wanted to make music like it because it reminded me so much of metal. No one was moshing to dubstep really back then, so my friends and I would also just go to super underground shows and beat each other up." Discovering these artists inspired him to ditch the electro house music and start making dubstep, and he said that once he started making dubstep, he felt like he had a purpose in life. In 2015, he launched Svdden Death, with the name presumably coming from Super Smash Bros.
Me and my friends have played Melee and Ultimate together a lot. A lot of times, like, we have like a, set up in our studio that I share with like some of my friends.
Cool.
And, yeah.
So you're a Melee player, yeah?
No, I definitely suck at that.
Really? I mean, me too. What are your mains for Melee and then Ultimate?
I guess Sheik would be my main in Melee.
High five. She's mine.
Oh,
yes.
Sick. Yeah. And then for Ultimate, I main Lucina and Ike,
we
so
could
like
tell.
sword characters.
Yeah, Lucina is really good. Sword players are really good.
When he launched the project, Svdden Death was actually spelled with a U rather than a V, but he changed it to a V in 2017 due to reasons outside of his control. It was probably either a legal issue or a search engine optimization move. He began releasing music online under the new name, and he said that Uber was one of the first artists to discover his music and share it around. This led to them collabing together in 2015 on the track called What You Got. By the end of the year, he started getting tracks signed to labels, and over the next year, he released with Baseweight Records, Prime Audio, and Savage Society Records, just to name a few. These releases gave him enough notoriety to where he got opportunities to start playing some local shows in the Bay Area. Somewhere around the time of those releases in 2016, Somnium Sound moved to LA to attend music school, and in an interview, Somnium Sound said, "When I moved, Danny was like, 'Yo, if you're going to move to LA, I'm moving to LA too.' And I was like, 'Yes, please do.' So I moved, then he moved a week later, and while I was attending school, Danny was all around meeting guys like Al Ross and Yax, and I met these guys through Danny." In 2017, Svdden Death released the Spelljam EP on Never Say Die, which kickstarted a big turning point for his career, and there's actually an interesting backstory to this.
I actually met Schism when he played in this club in like Campbell, which is in the Bay, probably like 3 years ago. And this is before I started making dubstep. And I think I opened for him or something. Like, played like the 8:30 slot, some shit, and I was like, "Hey man, you should check out my music," or something like along those lines. And I didn't give him any way of like ever contacting me ever. And so then I met him again, like I think late 2016, something like that. And he had already like had some of my songs, and he was like playing them out, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like,
yeah.
I did not expect that. And he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm really stoked on your shit. Let's get some music out." And I've been working with them since then, and probably like one of my favorite labels of all time.
What's even crazier is that his car was stolen right before the release of Spelljam, so he decided to quit his job and use the insurance money to supplement his other income, which he was making through shows, tutoring, mastering, and streaming. After the release of the Spelljam EP, he started getting booked for bigger gigs, one of which was playing Animals in France.
The first time playing in front of like a really large crowd, which was, I played Animals in France, in Paris, and like looking at the crowd, I was like, wow, that's a lot of people. It was like 7,000 people, and I'd never seen anything like that before, especially for dubstep. I was like really just trying to push it back into my head and like, I can do this, like I have everything planned out. I played at 6 in the morning, and the entire crowd stayed. So it was, because France, they go hard until forever. But the entire crowd was still there until 6 in the morning. Probably 10 minutes beforehand, I was like, I am having so much anxiety, I'm gonna puke. And I literally ran in the bathroom, threw up for around like 7 minutes. Everyone was like, "Where's Svdden Death? Where is he at?" And I was like, I come out of the bathroom, I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I get up on stage, and I see like basically an endless sea of people. And I was like, holy shit. I actually have to like really fucking do this, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
And that was like, that made me like feel a lot more comfortable playing in front of large amounts of people.
By this point, he had begun to create some momentum, which caught the eye of Ben Hogan, who's one of the most influential booking agents in all of dance music. Ben has helped build the careers of some major artists like Marshmello, Jaws, Slander, and Nightmare, just to name a few. Ben was working for Circle Talent Agency at the time, and in November of 2017, Svdden Death signed with Circle, which positioned him for massive growth the following year. In 2018, he was booked as support for a run of Borgore shows, went on the road with Snails for his Shell 2.0 tour, and played major festivals like Lost Lands, Bass Canyon, and EDC Las Vegas. He also had some big releases that year, such as his second EP on Never Say Die, as well as releases with Bygore and Bass Rush Records. However, possibly the most interesting part of the year was when he started releasing tracks on SoundCloud under the name VOYD.
Basically, the whole project originally was anonymous, and I had it as a really heavy dubplate page where I wanted to keep it a hidden identity and for me to be able to express myself in a much more evil tone.
He released 3 VOYD tracks anonymously called Darkness, Yo This Sucks, and Inferno. He then played Behemoth during his EDC Las Vegas set in 2018, which generated a lot of buzz, but at the time, VOYD was still anonymous. But soon after that, he revealed himself to be VOYD when he released VOYD Volume 1, and Behemoth became wildly popular and was played out and remixed by a ton of dubstep DJs. It even got some attention from Kylie Jenner on Twitter the following year when she tweeted Level Up's video of her Behemoth edit.
Rise and shine.
In October of 2018, he played the first ever VOYD show in Seattle as an opener for Snails, but this was before the official mask was debuted, and instead he wore a lampshade with VOYD written on it. He actually played a few different shows with the lampshade, including one at Red Rocks. But soon he began to work on the visual branding for VOYD, eventually coming up with the Wendigo mask that he uses today. His inspiration for the project comes from Berserk, which started as a Japanese manga series in 1989 and has a couple anime TV show adaptations. The name of the main antagonist in the series is VOYD, spelled VOID, and that's where Svdden Death got the inspiration for the name of his VOYD project. In an interview, he said, "For VOYD, I took a lot of inspiration from Berserk, even before I read through all the manga. As soon as I watched the first anime, I was really visually inspired by the dark themes, the drama, and the demons. That was really fundamental to help build a visual template for the universe that I'm creating separately for VOYD. Other than that, I would say Dungeons & Dragons. I was always obsessed with that as a kid."
Let us begin the chant of offering. Stray from the path, and you will not be granted the black wings that will carry you to the heavens. Fate has set you free from human reason, and by providence, embrace your inner evil.
He later included the iconic Wendigo head to be the main visual representation of the brand. Having great visual assets is crucial in today's industry, and today's video sponsor, Banger Show, is here to help you with that. Banger Show is a custom video maker application which is perfect for musicians, DJs, and label staff. You can use it to create Spotify Canvas, post your songs to YouTube with exciting visuals that will retain your viewers' attention, and create beautiful release day posts on Instagram. It has a variety of ready-made 3D elements that you can use to create any vibe. It gives you the firepower of Blender and After Effects without the complicated process of learning how to use them. The days of boring visualizers are over, and many well-known producers like Effin, Sodown, Joaquin, and Burnout are using Banger Show as a way to promote their music on social media. Banger Show offers 2 different pricing tiers to meet your needs, and if you use my affiliate link in the description, I receive a cut from every sale, which will help the channel tremendously. The more money I make from the channel, the more time I can dedicate to it, which means more frequent uploads and better content. So if you're a producer looking to spice up the visual representation of your brand, Banger Show is the perfect solution.
This
Corner Show.
In August of 2019, the first ever Void set where Danny used the helmet took place at the Ogden Theater, and soon after he made the festival debut at Bass Canyon. He also released Void Volume 1.5 that year, and he also teamed up with Marshmello on their first collab called Sellout. In February of 2020, during a sold-out show at the Hollywood Palladium, he pulled off what is possibly the most theatrical stunt ever done in dance music when he levitated during his set.
Been talking about last night when you levitated on stage. Where did the idea for this come from, and why last night's show?
It's just whatever I can do on like a very practical level, or possibly theatrical level, to make things more interesting, but trying to shy away from it being kind of circusy.
He's insanely committed to making his shows an experience you won't forget, and he has taken it to new levels in recent years, but we'll get to that later. Just weeks after that show in Hollywood, he played a Void set at the Caverns in Pelham, Tennessee, and the event was sold out in 48 hours. You may have heard a lot about this venue in recent years, and that's all thanks to Danny. His 2020 Void set was the first electronic show to ever take place there, and he started quite a trend, as we've now seen artists like G. Jones, LS Dream, Chami, Tycho, John Summit, and others follow suit.
How many DJs have y'all had since us, do you know?
Quite a few.
We're the
9, 10.
We're the first, right?
Yeah, you were the first.
So we started a trend.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, the COVID lockdowns took place about a month after that show at the Caverns, so he spent a lot of time working on music as there wasn't really much else to do. He released a handful of singles that year, one of which was his second collab with Marshmello called Crusade. The first release of the following year was a single on SoundCloud and Bandcamp called SLB, which stands for Shitty Long Boy, and all proceeds from the Bandcamp sales were donated to ocean conservation. Later that year, he announced the two-night return of Void to the Caverns, which took place in September of 2021. He said that he basically wrote a totally new set for those shows, which consisted of about 50 unreleased songs, and he said he basically did the same thing for his debut at Ultra in 2022. Now, aside from that Ultra set of almost entirely unreleased music, he had quite a few tricks up his sleeve for that year. At Forbidden Kingdom, he breathed fire during his set, which was a skill that he had been working on for months before. Speaking about this in an interview, he said, "I was scared as fuck of swallowing the lamp oil or breathing in the fire, but luckily I had an excellent teacher and was able to pull it off. Me and the team are constantly trying to find ways to add to the performance aspect of our shows, and this one was for sure the most dangerous, but for me personally, the most rewarding. As I get better, I'm going to add it to more shows more often. Fire is cool." However, he decided to stop doing it because some of his fans were doing it in the crowd at his shows, which is a huge safety hazard. In a tweet, he said, "In order to do fire breathing as a part of a performance, there's a million safety precautions we have to take with fire marshals, and I legit decided to stop doing it because of how dangerous it is. So please don't do it in the crowd. I love y'all, but please stop doing that." Later on in 2022, when he played at Rampage in Belgium, he pulled off the levitation stunt again, but this time he did it with a pair of giant wings.
Welcome to your doom.
The Void sets take an incredible amount of work to produce, which is why they happen so infrequently compared to Svdden Death sets. Danny said that he comes up with at least 30 minutes of new material for every Void set, plus the theatrical stunts require extra preparation.
I definitely am keeping Void as something that I do very sparsely, primarily because of the amount of work that it takes to go into the sets themselves, especially for one, my whole team, and then also me as an artist, because I want to have I never want to play not only the same set twice, but also songs that you've never heard or will ever hear again other than that one time you saw that set.
Yeah.
If I have the amount of time that I need in order to perform as Void, I'll probably have 20 new songs, and probably 10 of them will only be played that one time.
He only released 2 Svdden Death songs between 2021 and 2022, likely due to how much effort he was putting into the VOYD shows and the release of VOYD Volume 2, but he was probably also preparing his 6 singles that he released in 2023. That summer, he debuted a new project at Academy LA, a house alias called DEADROOM. For the show, he hired a bunch of celebrity doppelgangers to stand around him in the DJ booth, which just shows his love for theatrics. In the Exron music interview that I've been showing clips of, he mentions a new project he was working on, but couldn't say more about. This interview took place in 2020, so VOYD was already a thing by that point, and he had already released Sellout with Marshmello, so I don't think he was talking about MELLODEATH either. I figure he was talking about DEADROOM, but I guess it also could have been Masterhand.
Right now I'm trying to like develop a whole new persona for Svdden Death. Basically what I have going on right now is pretty different. Within the next year, you'll probably actually be able to see a lot of the changes because I'm going to be coming out with a new project, and that's the first time anyone's hearing that. But yeah, basically a new project.
You're coming out with a new project?
Yeah. But
Can you tell us anything about that? Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
In the summer of 2023 at EDC Las Vegas, Svdden Death and Marshmello teamed up for the first time as MELLODEATH, and they have since taken it further, but there are some other things that I need to cover first. In August of 2023, not much longer after the MELLODEATH EDC set, Svdden Death announced that he would be launching his first ever festival, taking place at none other than the Caverns, a place that he seems to really like. It was a 2-day festival that featured some of the hottest artists in bass music, as well as a set from Masterhand. When it was first announced, no one knew who Masterhand was, but it was later revealed to be a supergroup consisting of Eptic, Space Laces, and Svdden Death. There's a mini documentary about the creation of the festival on Svdden Death's YouTube channel, so if you want to learn more about the behind-the-scenes work that went into the festival, it's highly worth checking out.
It was a really amazing feeling getting to throw this festival and like just genuinely having this opportunity to do this, especially to like showcase a lot of my friends, a lot of like people that I really look up to as artists. And I've been throwing shows with the intention of like playing a show that from start to finish is like music that I'm like really, really, really into personally, people that I've known for a long time, and a lot of people that are new in the sense of like emerging into the scene and like having their names known. It's really important for, I feel like, everyone to have that one opportunity and also like environment to like really like creatively express themselves.
He also pulled off this crazy stunt during his VOYD set at the festival. And it seemed to ruffle some feathers.
There is a viral clip of a DJ called Svdden Death appearing to perform a ritual in front of his fans at a show. What we see is men in red cloaks, each holding a head, which I'm positive are fake. He then hands it to this man who is dressed up as Baphomet. He holds it up, shows it to the crowd, and then gives it to someone in the crowd. You can't tell me this is just for entertainment. There's gotta be a deeper meaning behind this. So I decided to dig deeper into this guy, Svdden Death. Yeah, the deeper I dug, the darker things got. And he's only getting more popular. He just made a song with Marshmello. If you don't know who that is, it's the dude that literally wears a marshmallow on his head. Demonic backdrops are one thing. I get it, at raves, people want to have the new crazy visuals with their music. But this man takes it to a whole nother level. He wears these antler heads, he's levitating in the middle of his raves. Not only that, he's literally throwing heads into the crowd. Imagine you see all of this and you're listening to his songs called Demonic Curse, Modern Sorcery, Mind Control, Purgatory. Come on, this is no rave. This is a satanic ritual.
I'm just excited to see my Lord and Savior Baphomet represented in such glorious Italian stone. I do hope his eyes gaze upon me and that my allegiance is recognized. I don't know. Notice me, senpai! Notice me!
He also had a tour lined up for late 2023, the Harbinger tour, but he called it off because he and his team were drained from the launch of 3 new projects and a festival. He kicked off 2024 strong with the release of his debut Svdden Death album, Harbinger, as well as the release of the MELLODEATH tapes Volume 1. MELLODEATH just kicked off their first tour, which started out at Red Rocks on April 4th, and he has a good bit of shows and festivals on his plate for the remainder of the year. It's very evident that Svdden Death is one of the most creative and passionate artists in the game right now. He puts an insanely high level of intention and care into every single one of his events and projects, so it makes perfect sense why he is one of the most sought after bass artists at the moment. He has done an incredible job of creating a world around his music that fans are welcomed into, giving them an experience that goes well beyond just the music. His theatrical antics have only gotten crazier over the years, and I'm excited to see what he comes up with next.
In the future, I would definitely just want to do crazier stuff. There's plenty of inspiration from like many people who've done like really crazy stage antics and like wild performance stunts that kind of like teeter on the world of just like actual like performance art and like in like stunts and stuff like that.